Is truly a good afternoon. And I'm the Old Growler here to welcome you to a tasting with the Old Growler. It's the 13th of July. It's a Monday, 13th of July, 2020. And boy, am I glad to have you with me today. We've got a great beer to taste. Now, for those of you who have been here before, well, welcome back. It's good to see you. That's fantastic. For those of you who have just joined or who are seeing this at a later date, welcome as well. It's good to have you aboard. I'm the Old Growler, Pete LaFrance. Now, what makes me the Old Growler? Well, I've had a little experience covering the malt beverage industry, and that means beer, spirits, and sometimes wine, because we're all friends in fermentation. Well, over the last 40 years or so, I have been writing about that particular industry. In fact, I've put out a few books. One is Beer Basics, and the other, Cooking and Eating with Beer. Both of those are still available on YouTube if you can find them. If not, in the comments, let me know, and I'll make an effort to try and get a copy to you. Okay, so what's the Old Growler doing here? I'll tell you what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is the fact that, hey, right now this is the 111th day that they have closed down the pubs, bars, and taverns here in New York City. And, you know, I tell you, it's a little bit difficult for somebody who has been covering the malt beverage industry for quite a while. Well, let's put it this way. It's been over 40 years. So when it comes to the end of the day, usually I would go out after interviewing maybe 2 or 3 brew pubs or brewers, and then I'd have a couple of beers myself, especially after 5 o'clock. Well, it is after 5 o'clock, so the Old Growler is going to have a beer. And I'll tell you, I'm going to have one that we've had before. It's a really nice one, but today we have a special beer tasting. And the special beer that we're going to be tasting is from the folks at Merchant de Vin. It's a Zundert Trappist beer, and it is an ale brewed with spices. So we're going to try that out a little bit later. That's the whole point of being here and having a tasting with the Old Growler. All right, but we have to wet our whistle, don't we? That's the most important part. So today, reached into the refrigerator, we have an old friend here. And this one is Troegs. It's their independent brewing company. They're Nimble Giant. Now, it's a little bit difficult being a beer taster because, you know, once you try one of these, when you try something else, maybe your taste buds are a little off. Well, don't you worry. I've got a glass of seltzer water here that is going to take care of cleaning those taste buds. But right now, it's time to have ourselves a celebratory beer. And that is exactly what it is on a Monday because, hey, we're beginning the week, and oh, what a week it is going to be. Here in Brooklyn, it's already started out to be pretty hot. So, and that is in the temperature. So we're staying in here and enjoying a little bit of air conditioning. But hey, come on. It's time for a beer, guys, isn't it? Yes, it is. All right, let's return to Troegs Independent Brewery, a Nimble Giant, and this is a once a year double India IPA, so it's going to be wicked hoppy. So let's just start the day off with this. I had a chance to stop in and see some of my buddies, brew pub fellas. Let's see, barflies as we go. Phil and Jimmy and hold on, let's make sure this is poured correctly. Jimmy and Jeff, and it was good to see them. Oh boy, that's a nice way to wet whistle. Wet whistle. Now for those, certainly take a look when you Google up something wet whistle. There's a great little wine bar, wine merchant in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and you really should look it up. Okay, well here we go. I see I've got a few people here, 3 of yous. It's good to see you. Cheers. The Old Growler is wishing you that you were here and we could share this beer, except I'm not going to share it. Yeah, I'm sharing it with you as buying a round. Okay, kids? A round to you all. Pleasure to see you on the 13th day of July, 2020. Oh, that was a good beer when we had it the first time. It's even better beer now, but I have to keep it away from the side there. Okay, well, now, as I say, the reason that the Old Growler is here is because usually on Thursdays, we would get together, myself, over at the Henry Street Ale House. We would get over in Brooklyn Heights, New York, Brooklyn, New York. We would get together and taste some beers. Now, this one, as I've mentioned before, the Trogs was sent to me as a sample, and this is probably this is the second or third. I believe it was second. Sent two, as one for the tasting and one for me to enjoy. And so we do get samples of beers. I will not get away from that. That's all there is to it. If they send me samples, particularly as a beer journalist, I am. People will send me press releases, and they'll say, "Oh, we've got this new beer." Well, I say, "You got this new beer. If it can stand up to meeting expectations." And that's what it's all about. Meeting expectations is what it used to be over at the Waterfront Ale House. Like that, the Henry Street Ale House. And what we would get together is the bar manager over there, Jerry Scott, and my buddy Jim Bennett from upstairs would get together, and there was always at least one or two other people there, because it is at the end of the Brooklyn Bridge where tourists come off and they are thirsty. And believe me, it's a 1 mile walk, a 1.1 mile mark across the Brooklyn Bridge. And I don't know that in kilometers, but it's a long walk. I do it in the mornings back and forth. And so they would come in pretty thirsty, and we would always ask if they would like to be part of the tastings and meeting expectations. Now, particularly we would get, I believe, a lot of Australians and Irish. And so the language was no problem. So what we would do is we would take a look at a beer can or a beer bottle, or every once in a while, a spirit would drop by, as in a scotch or a gin. And we would take a look at the label and take a look at it. I mean, what does this tell you about the type of beer that it is? And we'd read off the name. Well, Trogs, the three of us knew what type of beer. It comes from the Trogs Brewing Company. We're familiar with them. We know what a double India Pale Ale, we know what that is, but a double India simply means more alcohol. And sure as we knew that, it's 9% alcohol by volume. And it also tells you the type of hops that are on here, and the information that is what they want to tell you about the beer. So we would crack it open, have a sample, and would it meet expectations? A thumbs up. Would it not meet expectations? And there have been a few. Thumbs down. All right. So that's the name of the game here. Refresh my palate. With the Double Giant. Now, it's going to come time for the tasting. So, to clear my palate, oh, thank you for the thumbs up. I do appreciate that. To clear the palate, I use seltzer water. And the reason I use seltzer water is because it has a sparkle to it. It's carbonated, which is carbolic acid, which will clear the taste palates in the mouth, also in the nasal passages. Believe it or not, we also taste with our smell. There are only a few flavors. Most of what we really think are flavors are aromatics. So we have to remember that. And when we swallow beer, the aromatics resonate in the nasal passages. And so we get not only the flavors that are what we would imagine to be on the tongue, but they're also on the inside of the mouth as well, and in the nasal passages. And so That's why we always swallow beer rather than wine. When you're tasting wine, there's a spit bucket. And look that up as far, I'm not going to explain that, but it is a spit bucket and they use it in wine tastings, but not in beer. You have to swallow it. So what are we going to be tasting today? Okay. The folks from Merchant de Vin sent me a sample of their Zundert Brauerei. It's a Zundert 8. Zundert 8. And it's Brauerei de Quebec. It's a Trappist ale brewed with spices. Okay, we know it's got spices. Now, to begin with, if it comes from Merchant de Vin, I'm pretty sure that it's of Belgian, of an interesting origin. That's just to start with, so I'm already intrigued. The necker up here doesn't tell me too much. Let's see. No, it doesn't. It just simply tells me it's a Trappist beer, authentic Trappist product. Now, when somebody marks something, well, you know, we don't know, although I do trust these kids. Okay. Now, what else does it say? A product of Zundert, Netherlands. Okay, so it's a Dutch beer, a Netherlands beer. 11.2 fluid ounces. Okay, imported Merchant de Vin. On the back here, it says that it was 222 best before August 8th of 21. So we've got some time on this one. This is a relatively fresh beer, apparently. And 08 hours, and then it says 0737. So it must have been bottled. Well, I don't know about that. I can't tell you about that. But anyways, it says brewed by the Trappist Brauerei de Quebec, and then some letters that aren't vowels that I can't pronounce. So I'm going to go up to the English part, if you don't mind. We brewed a beer that we describe as slightly unruly. Our Trappist 8 is a beer you must take time to understand. Chestnut-colored and bottle-conditioned with aroma of herbs and spices, initially floral and slightly sweet. Character develops from light caramel to lovely dry hoppy bitterness as the flavor opens. Brewed within the walls of Zundert Trappist Monastery by the monks. So that gives us an idea of what to expect. So, chestnut-colored, aromatics with herbs, spices, and slightly sweet, and caramel. They're quite particular on that. So, since we're going to be trying a Trappist beer, I'm going to bring out a church key. And as far as the tradition of a church key, it's about the easiest way to open up a church door, which is quite simple. In the old days, you would open up a can of beer with this claw type feature that you can see there. You'd crack it open off of the top. And today we'll be using just the way to open up a bottle of beer. So here we go. This is the Zundert 8 Trappist. Let's see if it can meet expectations, and we're expecting it to be, as I say, an amber beer, rich, and have caramel, and very dry, very fresh. It's kind of a fresh beer, I would imagine. So let's crack it open and see what we've got. I'm going to use a wine glass because we've always used this as a standard for all of our beers, so that none of them, because in particular, if you have, say, a beer like this, you'd want to have a smaller opening for the aromatics, a larger one, more of a chalice type of thing if it's an ale. And this is an ale, so we're going to use this particular glass to pour it into. Okay, 45-degree angle, a nice angle to do that. There we go. All right. We do have 2 fingers of foam or head. That is a nice sign. I'm impressed with the lightness of the bubbles. There is a very light brown color, but they're very small, which is also good. It's a bit cloudy now. It might be that it is bottle conditioned, so I will give it that. And an Abbey beer as well. So let's go a nosedive. There is a very refreshing aroma from this. It's floral. It's almost like being in a field of clover, on a summertime where you can actually smell the aromas of the little flowers coming up. Yes, very much so on the second nosedive. Now, let's have a sip. No chance. Let's have a quaff. Wow. That delivers on every single level. It has a multitude of flavors as far as the sugars go, but it finishes very nicely as far as being dry. And yet there is the hops that are there are foreign to me. Yes, they are foreign because it is a Belgian beer. But they are, I wouldn't say predictable, but they are friendly, very friendly hops. They taste, they clear the palate very nicely. And this is a beer to be sipped, not so much a beer to be quaffed. So let me try a sip the second time. That is an enjoyable beer. You cannot, this is not something to quaff. I would really like to share. This would be, although it's not, it doesn't have a great deal. Let's see, it's not quite 12 ounces. So, however, that could be a shareable beer, definitely. I would start dinner with this. It would certainly be a wonderful way to get the gastric juices going. The flavor anticipation, particularly of maybe some roast beef or particularly roast chicken. This would certainly be a great start for that, along with, say, some roasted peppers and onions, grilled. Oh, wow. This would go great with some grilled meats and vegetables. And for those of you who are vegetarians, certainly grilled vegetables with this and corn, roasted corn. This would be fantastic. However, it's probably a bit dear as far as the price points. I really don't know about that, again, because this is a sample. So, does Zundert 8 or Zundert 8 Trappist ale brewed with spices meet expectations? Yes, it does. In fact, it exceeds expectations. I'm the Old Growler, hoping that all of your beers meet expectations. Thanks to all of you who have arrived today. I appreciate it. These live broadcasts are on Mondays and Fridays now that we have gone to phase 2 or 3 here in New York City. So I'm able to get out, and I might be doing some taped video, might be doing some video from outside and posting it during the week. So please do subscribe and click on the bell down below, the blue bell down below, so that you won't miss any of the presentations. There's going to be some interviews during the next few weeks that I think will be most interesting. And as I said, I do believe we're going to get outside and do some remote broadcasting. So this is the Old Growler. I appreciate everybody that showed up today, and hoping all of your beers meet expectations.